So you go in search of the oral form of DMT.
Right.
Which you had read some article and you thought was somewhere down in South America.
That's right. We went down there looking for this obscure Witoto hallucinogen called ukuhe that Schultes had written about in the Harvard Botanical Museum leaflets. And this was this was before anyone really understood about the pharmacology of DMT. At that time, 1970, 1971, the importance of the admixture plants was just sort of beginning to surface in the literature. Schultes had graduate students down there who were looking at it. We weren't aware of that, or we would have focused more on ayahuasca. But we thought, this is an orally active form of DMT, and our rationale was very practical. We thought, well, if we can make the state last longer, we can understand more about what this state of mind is, which again, we were sort of couching in the framework of it's really another dimension. Now, that's probably not true, but that was our working hypothesis. And so that's what motivated us. And then when we got down there, what we found were the mushrooms before we found ukuhe. Ukuhe proved hard to get and very disappointing when we finally found it. But we got to La Chorrera and there was abundance of these mushrooms.
First of all, getting to La Chorrera was no simple task.
Not a simple task at all, right?
And you're in Colombia in 1971.
That's right.
It's like planes and trains and automobiles and canoes, and you guys aren't exactly...
Trains and barges and boats, mostly. But yes, we had to go to southern Colombia. We had to go to a really horrible town called Puerto Leguizamo and get passage down the Putumayo and then up this other river, then cross this trail 4 days from one river to... So yeah, it was a classic Heart of Darkness, crazy scene, which of course I've written about in my book and Terence wrote about too in True Hallucinations. And then finally we made it there. And the fact that we even got that far, is, I don't know, it's a testimony to luck and delusion and how nuts we were. We were driven. We were clearly driven. And we were in the grip of a mythopoetic meme, and sort of, I think, at that time. I mean, that sounds ego-inflated to say that, but that's really what was going on. And so we got there, and we were in search of ukuhe. So we tended to be dismissive of the mushrooms initially. We thought, oh, well, we know what these are. I mean, we had almost no experience. We encountered them a couple of times on the way in at Puerto Leguizamo and a couple other stops, and taken one or two, and we sort of had a feel for it. But when we got there, they were everywhere. And we had a very cavalier attitude toward it, in a sense. We didn't take it seriously. We thought of them as a distraction while we were looking for the real secret. Well, they quickly reprioritized our understanding and made it clear that they were the real secret. And I think they were the real secret. And they transmitted a lot of information to us about experiments we could do. I wouldn't call them experiments, but they certainly seem to, we talked earlier about how you tend to objectify these drugs. People talk about ayahuasca's she, and well, mushrooms are really good at presenting themselves that way. They're not feminine, they're actually asexual, like fungi are, they have a personality, for sure, and they have a lot that they want to share. And so you can get into these I-thou exchanges with them, and it's just like talking to somebody. And in some ways, it's like talking to kind of your garrulous, grumpy old uncle, it's like, oh, you again, Well, as long as you're here, you may as well stay. So there are aspects of that.
That's the personality of the psilocybin mushroom.
Sometimes it's that way.
And
yeah.
when did you finally discover that these were the prize? Did you take a larger dose and thought, wait a second, there's something going on?
When did we discover that?
Yeah.
Well, we discovered. Now, Brian, you're leading me into the primrose path here that I don't want to get into, but we discovered that at high doses, like really high doses, way beyond the heroic dose level, 10, 15 grams, that we could hear these sounds, these internal sounds, like harmonic tones, electrical sounding, buzzing kind of sounds. And if you smoke DMT, you hear sounds like that too, like crumpling cellophane and that kind of thing. And there's probably your neurons frying, I don't know. But you hear these sounds, and that's interesting enough. But if you listen carefully, you can start to imitate those sounds, and you can sing. You can actually try to imitate them. They're very hard to imitate, but at a certain point, your voice can lock on to this, and then it just pours out, a long ululation. I'm not going to make the sound.
Come on,
Don't
give me a
worry.
little bit, Dennis.
Huh?
Give me a little bit.
No, I can't. I can't. I don't want to disrupt the space-time continuum. But anyway, so this, and with this singing goes a feeling of ecstasy, a feeling of like this power is just pouring out of you, and the hallucinations go crazy and all that. And then, so that was kind of the phenomenon we were experiencing, and then we were trying to make sense of this. What is this, and how can we understand it? And the mushroom was quite happy to provide a framework or suggestions about what this was. And the suggestion was that what you're hearing internally is the electron spin resonance of these molecules intercalating into DNA. Now, this is total bunk, right? This is not how it works. We now understand that. But at the time, it was matter-of-factly presented to us. This is what's going on. And it wasn't for us to question, well, of course this is what's going on. So what can we do about it? Well, we can use our voice to essentially do a kind of psychosurgery on ourselves to create, to excite our own DNA into resonating a standing waveform that would be sustained by superconductivity, and that would be essentially an artifact that is made of mind and matter, that is a union of mind and matter, and that would be controllable by thought, and it would have access to all information in the Akashic field or whatever. Now, I mean, this all made perfect sense in the context of the experiment,
And you were the
40
medium.
years later, I look at this, and these people were seriously deluded, but we took it seriously at the time.
And you were the medium. You were the transmitter.
Yes, I
of
was
this.
the transmitter.
Right.
I was getting the download, and I was writing furiously, almost like automatic writing, trying to work out this protocol. And I mean, to call it an experiment at La Chorrera is a misnomer, because experiments have to have controls, and this was about as uncontrolled as it could get. It's more like the ritual at La Chorrera or something. But we did create a vessel in which we postulated that if we made this sound and directed it at a mushroom, that we would get a spectacular result of this activation of DNA, both in us and the mushroom at the same time. And, you know, I don't want to go into the details because the details are murky even today. But that was our expectation, and our expectation was totally unrealistic because it would have involved the violation of a number of laws of physics, and you know, physics is very hard to overturn those laws. So that didn't work. We didn't actually get the result we predicted. But what we did get was kind of a backlash, which was our simultaneous prolonged dissociation from reality, or from this reality, which was about 14 days. And now people can read about that in True Hallucinations and the Brotherhood of the Screaming Abyss, what that was about. So trying to unpack this, I think, you know, looking back on it, and the whole premise of making this sound was that at the right frequency, the right resonance, we could flip the molecule through the fourth dimension such that its trip was on the outside. Well, if looking back on what the trip is not in the drug. That was the fundamental misunderstanding. The trip is what happens when the drug encounters the nervous system and plays out as the biochemical symphony, if you will, of the experience. Just like a piece of music on paper is not the music. It's a diagram of the music. The music doesn't happen until you play it. Same with the medicine. The medicine has to metabolize through the body. So it is a fourth dimensional process. It takes place through time, but it doesn't turn the trip is not in the drug. That was a mistake that we made and a lot of people make. The trip happens when the drug plus nervous system do their dance together, and then it works, and then you have an experience of time. It's like a movie.
Okay. You had both just recently lost your mother as well before that trip. Did that change the state you were in and mentally, or?
You have to speak.
Yeah, you and Terence had both just lost your mother. She had just died before that trip.
Yes, we lost our mother.
Did that change this mental state you were in, or did that make you more determined?
No, I think absolutely it did. I mean, it was 6 months to the day after our mother died that we did the experiment at La Chorrera. We were both anguished by this. I mean, I don't even know how conscious it was, you know, when we did the experiment, but I think the sense of this loss was very much, you know, present, even though maybe not articulated. And I think at one level we thought, I think that loss of our mother involved probably a lot of guilt on both of our parts. We hadn't been the best sons that we might have been. We probably disappointed her in lots of ways. You know, I mean, hopefully she wouldn't be disappointed if she knew how it turned out, but she didn't. And so I had that, and I think there was an element of that was like, you know, we would actually disrupt space-time in order to get her back, you know, and not only get her back, but get back a whole bunch of people, you know, Jung and Einstein, people like that, you know, who we were utterly convinced were going to be showing up. And so we were lost in a serious delusional state. There's no doubt that the loss of my mother, our mother, had a lot to do with that.
Okay.
You know, so this was a redemption of that in some ways, a healing, I think.